Family Station Love 101, time for the Morning Watch with host Stokely Marshall.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. I am your host, Stokely Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you are overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001, and if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on Love 101 FM Facebook Live and YouTube Live in the main watch today. The World Health Organization recommending a relaxation of COVID restrictions or COVID travel restrictions. In the second watch, reflections on the message from the recently held National Leadership Prayer Breakfast. In our social media question, we asked, are you for or against the relaxing of COVID travel restrictions? Why? In other words, you should say why you're for it or why you're against it. Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your conversation on the program. At first, as I quote.
This morning's I quote, nothing is worth more than this day. Joanne.
Sounds pretty deep. Indeed. The main watch will be back after this break.
For nearly 100 years, Massey has served its customers and communities with heart and innovation. Now, built on a more strategic model, Massey is poised for growth and committed to powering change across the region and the globe. Their next big move is the cross-listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Now, this household name can become part of your portfolio, giving you access to diversified investments and competitive dividends. One stock, multiple portfolios. Massey.
Jamaicans, it's our Diamond Jubilee, 60 years of independence, and the cultural powerhouse JCDC is searching for Jamaica's next gospel star. The JCDC is now accepting entries for the Jamaica Gospel Star competition. Share your ministry in song. Submit your video performance of a cover or original song of 2.5 minutes. Visit the JCDC's website and social media pages for details to register and upload your entry. Entries close on February 28th. Are you the next gospel star?
Do what? Nobody light it.
What you man say? Do what? No light what?
Nobody light it. You know, sister, we in a dry season. Plus breeze a blow. You are set we up for disaster.
Disaster? What kind of disaster?
Bushfire, Joe. Bushfire. If that the fire they catch and spread, we can lose everything. House, land, car, gone. See a carelessness. Nobody light it.
You know what you? I feel with duty to protect life and property.
Yes. Me glad you respect the warning.
This message was brought to you by Jamaicans Against Bushfires. Jab, plan, protect, prevent.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are now in the main watch. Now, according to the World Health Organization, yes, there are variants in relation to COVID-19, but nonetheless, they recently recommended that travel restrictions be eased. And there was even an article in the Jamaica Observer recently on it. And due to a challenge with the internet, I'm having a difficulty bringing it up this morning. Nonetheless, we're going to be having a discussion around this topic. And of course, for the benefit of those who are just joining, the World Health Organization recommending a relaxation of COVID travel restrictions. We have as our guest on the line to discuss it, Basil Hanson, founder and CEO NTM Television, and he describes himself as a Christian activist. He describes himself as a Christian activist. We also have Christopher Kennedy, Pastor Kennedy, pastor of Jawland and Abrams Mennonite Church of St. Elizabeth. And I should add that Basil Hanson is the Reverend Basil Hanson, both ministers of religion. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you both?
Morning, Stokely. Thanks for having me.
Great having you too. Pastor Kennedy. We don't seem to have him on quite yet. Hopefully he'll be joining us shortly. Reverend Hanson, how does it strike you in relation to that recent article where the World Health Organization is recommending a relaxation of COVID travel restrictions? How does it strike you, sir?
Well, it is very sensible. The world, after 2 years of pandemic, I think, the world is weary, the world is stressed, the world is tired, the world is frustrated. I believe it is the wise thing to do at this time. I believe that countries are struggling, the airlines are struggling, hotels are struggling. There's a lot of industries that are struggling as a result of this pandemic. And so I think it is the wise thing to do. We cannot divide a country or a world and expect it to be strong. Anything that is divided is weak. It will fall. And so, the world is collapsing right now as we speak. People are not saying it, but it is. And so the wise thing to do is to allow people to live their lives and be responsible. And I must commend our government for taking that approach. People need to be responsible for themselves and live their lives and take the responsibility for whatever comes their way. So I agree with the World Health Organization. I'm not a big fan of them because I really don't think they have much credibility. But in this instance, I agree with them. Whatever their motives are, I agree that we should not be asking people to show vaccination proof to travel or go anywhere at all. It is discrimination. And you can't be saying with discrimination in some areas, but when it suits you, it is okay. I am not for it. So I'm happy that they are considering it, even though there are some countries who are putting up resistance. The totalitarian countries, will still want to put up resistance. As somebody said, democracy means that we know everything about the government, but totalitarian means that the government know everything about us. We have to decide which one we want.
Very interesting, sir. Pastor Kennedy, are you online now, sir? Pastor Kennedy? We seem to still not have Pastor Kennedy online. No,
he seems
no.
to be
One of the concerns that people may have is
Stokely,
Pastor
can you hear
Kennedy?
me? Yes, I'm here, sir.
Okay, Pastor Kennedy, the World Health Organization recommending a relaxation of COVID travel restrictions. How does it strike you, sir? Do you agree or disagree with that recommendation by the World Health Organization?
I don't disagree with it so much as to say that it was kind of extreme. because you have all along been adopting a particular approach, and now you're down completely. So it leaves one to beg the question, what we're doing all along. You know, I think political pressure is clearly playing a dominant role, and while it can be good in a context where people must learn to have an interchange of ideas and thoughts and take advice and listen to suggestions, it can be unhealthy where the practice of science and medicine is concerned. And I think this hands-down approach is a deep, deep concern. I think it has begun now to question. I don't want to use the word integrity, but I might have to use it for the want of a better word. The whole approach that they've been taking all along. And I think some people really are going to be in a position where they're going to be having a deep, deep problem now with accepting many of the things that they've been suggesting.
Very interesting thought. Now, one of the concerns that has been raised about COVID and these jabs is that, well, let's back up a little bit. Typically with a vaccine, well, certainly most of us were raised to believe in the concept that once you take a vaccine, it provides immunity. However, these jabs, once they were being rolled out, it was indicated that they don't necessarily provide immunity, but they certainly provide protection, which is a different word, definitely a couple tiers lower than immunity.
I'm not so sure about that.
Immunity is like a very strong, powerful fence, whereas protection is, well, yes, we protect, but we can't say immune. And that's a matter of fact. Now, do you think the average person traveling is going to be deeply concerned about the relaxation of the travel measures? Or do you think some people are going to be up in arms? Because at the end of the day, none of the powers that be are saying that once you take the jab, you are unable to spread COVID. So what's your reaction to that, Pastor Hanson and then Pastor Kennedy, before we head to the break?
Well, Stokely, it's very clear that if that is, first we must remember that when they rolled out the jab, they told us that it is experimental. Experimental means we don't know what it is going to do. We're not sure. So we are experimenting with this thing. So how can you be experimenting with something and when the data is showing up, you still ignore them? I have a serious problem with that. So if you are vaccinated, you can catch COVID and you can give COVID. If you are not vaccinated, you can catch COVID and you can give COVID. The difference is that one of us vaccinated and one is not, but we still do the same thing. The risk is, I don't know what the risk is, and none of us know what the risk. There's no data to suggest that the long-term risk is going to be A or B. There's none, no data. So we don't know a year or two from now, we might hear, boy, you know, this thing might make your heart begin to function a little way, or, you know, we don't know what it will do. But all we know is that people take the risk on both sides. The man who take the risk and take the jab, he's taking a risk that, but I don't know how my body is going to respond to this. I don't know if when I take it, I'm going to be that one who will have an adverse side effect. The man who don't take the jab, he takes the risk with COVID. He's saying, boy, I have a 98% chance of living when I catch COVID if I have a good immune system. So I cannot see a health issue in saying you can't travel if you are not vaccinated. That's not a health issue anymore. It is now a totalitarian system. And as I said earlier, democracy means that the people know everything about the government. A totalitarian system means the government knows and controls everything about you. We have to decide what system we want to live in. And I want to commend our Prime Minister again for saying something. He said, I will not allow any event to take place that is going to divide us in our 60th year. He said that at the National Prayer Breakfast. And I commend him for that, because you cannot divide a country and expect us to be strong.
We are upon a break. Reverend Hanson, Pastor Kenny will take your comments after the break. Listeners, stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
This is Love 101 at 7:16.
H&L is celebrating 94 years with an anniversary sale. From January 21 to 30, shop at H&L Rapid True Value for up to 25% off select items. Housewares, lumber, ply and acrylic sheets, power tools and tool accessories, solar products, and so much more. Celebrate with us this January 21 to 30. See you there. Delivery and curbside pickup available.
Get ready for the Woman Ignite Success Summit 2022. 2 days of intense worship and conversations about building kingdom wealth, leadership, marriage and relationship, mental health, finding purpose, and more. Featuring mental health expert Dr. Caroline Leaf, LA-based entrepreneur Heather Lindsay, plus worship with Rhoda Isabella, Alicia Taylor, Nadine Blair, and friends. Woman Ignite Success Summit, a life transforming event. January 28 and 29, Corley Auditorium, Kingston. Book virtual or limited in-person VIP tickets at womanigniteja.com. Powered by Digicel, Sagicor, One Group, Jamaica Observer, and Love FM.
For nearly 100 years, Massey has served its customers and communities with heart and innovation. Now, built on a more strategic model, Massey is poised for growth and committed to powering change across the region and the globe. Their next big move is the cross-listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Now, this household name can become part of your portfolio, giving you access to diversified investments and competitive dividends. One stock, multiple portfolios. Massey.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the main watch, and the main watch today is the topic. Well, the topic for today, rather, is the World Health Organization recommending a relaxation of COVID travel restrictions. Our guests are Reverend Basil Hanson and Pastor Christopher Kennedy. Now, you made a very interesting point just before the break, Reverend Hanson. Pastor Kennedy, I want to point out before you comment, sir, that just for the benefit of the listeners, that at present, in order to enter Jamaica, you don't have to be jabbed for COVID, against COVID, to enter the country. And I know that a number of other countries have imposed the restriction that you must be jabbed before you enter. But Jamaica has no such requirement. Pastor Kennedy, how do you see this matter about travel restrictions and COVID generally impacting the church? Do you find it to be a divisive topic in the church? I mean, I am even seeing where some online groups that I have something to do with, they either don't touch the topic at all, or they barely touch the topic. And then in other groups, I mean, social media groups I'm speaking about. And in other social media groups I'm in, the topic becomes whenever it does come up, it's a very heated debate. And people seem to be at daggers drawn. And Reverend Hanson made some reference to not dividing the world, not dividing the country. Your comments and thoughts, Reverend Pastor Kennedy.
Well, churches that understand the word of God well, that recognizes, one, a deep respect for the government authorities. I keep insisting, and I'm worried when I hear some comments. I keep insisting that in Paul's letter in Corinthians, there's a certain basic level of respect that must be attributed to leaders, whether it be world leaders or just governmental leaders. And I think churches that have that understanding and listen to both sides of this discussion, because I have been appalled. I'm saying absolutely appalled at the poor level of reasoning. I mean, anybody, a first year student in logic would have a real hard time with the way people state and draw conclusions is one. And I think COVID has brought that out. and be careful about how they approach leadership, how they approach reasoning, how they listen to both sides. I think the discussions will be helpful. And unfortunately, with COVID, that is not happening in many cases, but there are cases where it does, and I'm happy about that. And I think I would need to say to people listening to this program, we need to listen to both sides. It's obvious that many people commenting on this issue are listening mostly to one side, or they're not listening enough to both sides. And I think when it comes to COVID, it seems to me that the people who largely are, unfortunate to say, but I have to say, less qualified are the people who talk the loudest and tend to be the most disrespectful in all of this. And I think as Christians, we have to demonstrate that it's not the approach. Certainly it's not biblical. We're all learning when it comes to this Omicron thing, this Delta thing, this COVID thing. We're learning. And even the science, I think, and medical experts need to do that too. Everybody needs to understand that we're learning, because we're living in an age, we're a learning age. You know, the internet is here, there's an exchange of ideas, and we're all learning.
You know, I'm very careful and guarded how I make comments like what you just made, Pastor Kennedy, about persons not being qualified, because someone can be academically not qualified, but it doesn't mean that they're not street smart. And, anyway, I hear what you said, sir. I've heard what you said. And
I too have a problem with that, Stokely.
Have a problem with what?
Yeah, I too have a problem with the not qualified statement, because even those who are qualified are having a difficult time right now, because they are telling us a lot of stuff that are not working, and they have to be changing the goalpost. So I'm not sure we want to get into who is qualified, and that in itself is what we are struggling with as a nation. For years we struggle with uptown and downtown, and rich and poor and classism. We don't want, we at 60, we want to be more mature. We want to be able to understand that not everybody can be academically inclined, but there are those who are technically inclined and skilled, and they are just as important, So we have to stop find that division among us.
People are intelligent people regardless of whether they are qualified. But be that as it may, I don't want to die.
But Stokely, take my statement of the context.
Whole new can of worms, Stokely.
Sorry.
Are you finished with that point, Pastor Kennedy? I'm not sure if I heard you clearly.
I was saying that I remember that I did mention cross-exchange of ideas, listening to each other and listening to both sides. So, I kind of think that you interpreted my statement outside of that. I even said that the scientists and the medical experts
it came across, it sounded like a pejorative, but I don't want to digress, because you're clarifying that now. In terms of the COVID travel restrictions, what would you like to see ultimately, Pastor Kennedy? Would you like to see a listing of all the protocols that have been around, even mask wearing? Would you like to see all of that go, or is it just vaccine requirements you'd like to see not being asked for, or where they are being asked for now, you'd like to see them drop that? Is that what is the extent of the relaxation you would like to see, Reverend Hanson?
I think we should give people a choice in this matter. I think we should desist with all these mandates and all that, because it's not working. You see, Stokely, if it was working, I could understand. If when you get a vaccine, you cannot catch the virus and you cannot spread the virus, and you said, well, in order for you to travel, you have to have the vaccine, because you won't be able to spread it and you won't be able to catch it. Fine. But you can't be saying the two people can do the same thing, yet you want to punish one. It's wrong, and I believe, Stokely, those who are involved in this, they will get by, but I promise you they will not get away with it. This is going to have long-term consequences. As my wife says, when this is over, there's going to be a lot of healing that has to take place. Too many people have been hurt and displaced, and you know, and even in our own country, you have people want to you know, we want to have events with vaccinated only. Okay, and even our Minister of Health telling people to shun the unvaccinated. How can you shun 2.3 million people? That's the country. Those are stupid statements. And I believe when this is over, we're going to have a lot of healing to do. You know, I think all the mandates should go. People should be responsible to live their lives as it regards to traveling and all of those things. You shouldn't be talking about mandates to travel when you have to do a test to come and do a test to go. So those are my, you know, few words in Jesus.
Well, you made a mention of 2.3 million. Remember, that's of the 2.3 million. Well, anyway, I won't go there. Yeah, in other words, you're saying about 2.3 million Jamaicans are not vaccinated. I don't have the current figures, so I won't comment on that.
Somewhere there. All right, even 2 million.
I won't digress and belabor the point. We have heard you loud and clear, Reverend Hanson. We have heard you loud and clear. Pastor Kennedy, would you want an increase in the restrictions or let the restrictions remain as they are? A reduction of the restrictions for travel? Where do you sit on where all this is concerned? Pastor Kennedy? Are you with us, sir? Pastor Kennedy? If you're muted, can you unmute, sir? Wanted your comment, Pastor Kennedy, whether the restrictions. Yes, we're hearing you now. Go ahead, sir. Would you want the restrictions for travel tightened or relaxed? Pastor Kennedy? I hope it's not just on my end, but I'm not hearing you, Pastor Kennedy.
No, we're not hearing him.
Oh, I'm not hearing him either. Okay, Reverend Hanson, any final thoughts? Because I think we are almost out of time. Any final thoughts before we wrap today, sir? Reverend Hanson.
Well, as I said, I think I think the World Health Organization, you know, as you know, looked at the situation, and I think they have encouraged the world to do the right thing at this time. And the right thing is to be honest. The data that we have suggests that, you know, if you are vaccinated, you can catch the disease and you can spread the disease. If you are not vaccinated, you can catch the disease and you can spread the disease. The only difference between the two groups, Stokely, is that one group, the unvaccinated, when you catch it, you have a 98% recovery rate. That's the data. It is my choice if I choose to take the risk with the coronavirus.
Well,
and it is the other man's choice.
Have a higher risk of hospitalization and death if you're not vaccinated. But their views going in.
Yeah, but that is also my choice.
Depending on
That
who you live
is the risk I'm going to take. Yes, that is the risk that people, you know, have to. But in traveling, as I said, this is about traveling. The two sets of people can catch the virus and spread the virus.
You would be traveling anyway.
I didn't hear you.
If you're in the hospital, you will not be traveling anyway, so it wouldn't matter for traveling.
Exactly. So that's the point. So I am saying, once I have taken the test and it is negative, then how is it now I become a threat to somebody? But as I said, it's all politics have gotten in this thing, and it has really messed up the whole thing. It's not about your health anymore. You know, it's about, because it can't be about your health.
Reverend had to leave there today. They abused either side, going both directions, different doctors with different opinions. But nonetheless, thank you, sir. And thank you, Pastor Kennedy, for having joined us for this first watch. Listeners, stay with us. We'll be right back on the morning watch.
Now with no processing fees and no down payment, it's time to open the door to your own sweet home. The time by JN Bank is
7:30.
For nearly 100 years, Massey has served its customers and communities with heart and innovation. Now, built on a more strategic model, Massey is poised for growth and committed to powering change across the region and the globe. Their next big move is the cross-listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Now, this household name can become part of your portfolio, giving you access to diversified investments and competitive dividends. One stock, multiple portfolios. Massey.
Under the Law helps you to know your rights and how the laws of Jamaica can help you defend those rights. We've been doing it for 50 years. That's right. Join us on Thursdays at 6:20 a.m., 2:35, 6:45, and 9:10 p.m. Compliments of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. Educating, advocating, empowering. Under the Law, Thursdays on Love 101 FM.
Entrepreneurs, now you've got more support in your corner. Introducing Sagicor Bank Business Resource Center, where entrepreneurs benefit from free training in business management, financial support and guidance from pros, as well as research capabilities. Sagicor Bank, in partnership with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, brings you this first center of its kind for small entrepreneurs to develop and grow. Let's help you take your business to the next level of success. Contact Sagicor Bank Business Resource Center today. WhatsApp 876-997-3745.
Welcome back to the morning watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are, about to take a look at the newspaper to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. We may have a slight challenge with that, however, in that due to the lack of internet connection or internet connectivity today, we are unable to comment on the current items of news from both major daily newspapers, and we do apologize for that. One of the things that listeners I know are very deeply concerned about, however, is the constant crime, and of course the road accidents are a massive issue. And unfortunately, we are not driving properly on our roads. And personally, I've heard of a recent incident where someone was left off, essentially to die on the road. And crime continues unabated. And of course, there was that recent incident in the quiet community of Cross Keys, Manchester. And I've been to Cross Keys. It's a lovely place. The weather is immaculate. And to hear of an incident where someone goes to report on being at a particular police station and yet has a bulge in his waist, and when they accost him to see what is the problem, they are indicating that it was in fact a firearm that he had on him. Very unfortunate, and these are things which we cannot continue to countenance and take for granted in this country. Well, of course, coming up next, we'll repeat some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, are you for or against the relaxing of the COVID travel restrictions? Why? Say why. Say if you're for it or against it, why. If you haven't done so yet, leave a comment on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
If you are looking for entertaining and educational sports discussions, then Sports Talk has you covered. Join me, Daniel Blake, Saturdays from 1 to 2 p.m. as I deliver interesting sporting conversations, special interviews, features, and interactions with you, the listeners. Sports Talk is sponsored by Jamaica Customs Agency, Country Above Self, and Accountant General's Department, service with excellence, touching the life of every Jamaican. Sports Talk, Saturdays from 1 to 2 p.m. with me, Daniel Blake, right here on the family station, Love 101.
celebration continues. Oh, yes.
How y'all doing this evening?
The Love 101 FM Subscribe-a-thon continues this Friday and Fellowship Fridays with Shavoni Blair. Oh, yes. This excitement is so real. Stay with us all week. And this Friday, January 28th, stay with Shavoni Blair from 5 p.m. Then at 9 p.m. when you hear him say, "Come make we draw long bench," the excitement all turn over as we invite you to listen and call in. You know the usual, but we also want you to subscribe to our Love 101 FM YouTube channel. It's a subscribe-a-thon. Get it? Oh, yes, folks. All week and into Friday night, I go sweet, and we turn it up and turn it over with Shavoni Blair in Fellowship Fridays this Friday, January 28th at 9 p.m. It will be on our YouTube channel, but then I must add on Love 101, the family station. I will still come to you. Yes, man. We want no more people to
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Shavoni, any comments in relation to our feedback question? Yes or no? Not yet.
Well, I see Ione Ware saying wear mask with a negative COVID-19 test should be enough. COVID-19 is not wiring, and the scientists found that out. Okay. Let me see. There's another one. Let me see. Okay, this one says we must pay to travel, pay to come back. Money making, think them too wicked for poor people or to poor people. All right, so those are the comments. All right.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Shavoni. Well, we are now in the second watch, and on the morning of January 10th, 2022, the nation's leaders met for breakfast, prayer and breakfast, and they have been meeting like this for about 42 years now. Let's reflect on the messages and thoughts coming out of this year's National Leadership Prayer Breakfast meeting. We have online to discuss this Reverend Dr. Rohan Amberling, Pastor, Sterling Castle New Testament Church of God, and Reverend Samuel McCook, Chair of the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast Committee. Reverend Ambersley and Reverend McCook, how are you both?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. Good morning to you and your listeners.
Okay, and Reverend McCook?
Yes, ditto that. It's great to be alive, and morning to you, morning to your audience, and thanks for the opportunity to have this conversation.
Most definitely, sir. And starting with you, Reverend McCook, what are the things that you'd like to highlight about the recent prayer breakfast? And did it meet your expectations? Reverend McCook?
Yes. Well, there are a number of things that could be considered highlights. I think a major highlight is that this is our 42nd such staging, 42nd annual staging, which means that every year we gather like this with our national leaders for a time of reflection and a time of prayer. I think that is significant considering that we are celebrating 60 years as a country. So it means that for most of our life as a country, this has been a feature of our annual activities. Another highlight is the fact that our national leaders made the effort to attend in person or to attend virtually. The Governor General attended virtually, and the Prime Minister in person, the leader of the opposition in person, and members of their leadership team. So I think, and as well as leaders in the public and private sector. So I think that the attendance of key national leaders is a highlight. I think that the ability to adapt to the environment, so we changed our format, we changed key aspects of our operations to adapt to the new reality. And I think we did so in a fairly seamless manner. And the feedback has been positive that the new format or the format we used for this year worked. And a highlight also has to be the presentation by our two speakers, our youth speaker who brought a confident and hopeful perspective to the audience, and to Reverend Ambersley, who is with us, who brought a very challenging, relevant, and practical word to us that I think could be responded to at different levels by each person who attended. And there are many other highlights that we could cite, but those are just a few. In terms of did it meet our expectations, it's very difficult to have clear expectations in an intangible thing like an event. I would say that it met our expectations in the sense that we had an activity that those who attended, both virtually and in person, felt was a worthwhile exercise. And for some persons, it allowed them time to have some deeper reflection, some spiritual reflection. And also, I believe it helped to uplift the conversation or theme, pressing forward in faith, hope, and love, is a theme that acknowledges that we have challenges, but more importantly, calls us to press forward despite these challenges with the assurance that these ingredients that we can identify in ourselves individually and collectively are helpful mobilizers for us to go forward. So I think that, yes, it met our expectations, intangible as those expectations were.
So well, let's go straight to Reverend Ambersley. Reverend Ambersley, good morning again.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
What was the thrust of your message, and why did you choose that message?
So the message I spoke came from the text, 1 Corinthians 13, which is the love chapter. And really and truly, it related to the theme and was a text read at the breakfast. The focus, what I pulled from the text, is a focus on right action based on right motives and right attitude through right mindset. I essentially said that if we're going to move forward, if we're going to press forward in faith, hope, and love, while those virtues are necessary, there are certain vehicles that are important. And I mentioned those two. And I think, the biblical text gave a foundation from which I could apply these principles. So if you think about that wonderful text in the scripture, it essentially emphasizes that our behaviors must be driven by the right motives, chiefly among them love. If as leaders we are not driven by the right motives, then our actions become distorted. But for us to have actions that can facilitate development of a nation, of an institution, then the leaders must be driven by a motive to develop and to help persons. And the idea was, if we're going to become the kind of nation that we can become under God, then right action is critical. But action must be supported by attitude. And there was a sense that if we embrace right attitude, if we are going to embrace right attitude, it requires the right mindset. And the same biblical text, when the leader, the transformational leader, Paul, wrote that text, he essentially emphasized and described what love looked like. And if you think about it, those descriptions are exactly what Jamaica needs. He says love is patient, and love is kind, and love keep no record of wrongs, and love is not boastful, and love is not easily angered. So the essence of the point is that this biblical wisdom had tremendous value, because indeed we need some more people who are patient and kind. The road accidents would be less if more people were patient and kind. The crime statistics would go down if people didn't keep a record of wrongs. If people were a lot more, open to embracing right attitude, it would make a major difference in our land. So I felt the text was relevant, and I felt the text was impactful, and that's why I chose the text and chose to emphasize those points from the text.
Alrighty, this is Love 101, the family station. Hold the thoughts, gentlemen. Let's take the break. It's 7:45.
For nearly 100 years, Massey has served its customers and communities with heart and innovation. Now, built on a more strategic model, Massey is poised for growth and committed to powering change across the region and the globe. Their next big move is the cross-listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Now, this household name can become part of your portfolio, giving you access to diversified investments and competitive dividends. One stock, multiple portfolios. Massey.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the second watch, and we're looking at reflections on the message from the recently held National Leadership Prayer Breakfast. And our guests are Reverend Dr. Rohan Ambersley and Reverend Samuel McCook. Reverend McCook is the chair of the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast Committee, and Reverend Ambersley, pastor of the Sterling Castle New Testament Church of God. Now, Reverend Ambersley, and even to you, Mr. Chair, Reverend McCook, how do you relate this annual activity to the average person on the road, in the street? A lot of persons, whether rightly or wrongly, have come to regard the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast as a high-level activity between the church and the state, at least once per year. And they may have a challenge or difficulty seeing how it connects with them in their day-to-day lives. Starting with you, I was going to ask you to start first, Reverend Dr. Ambersley, but I'll start with you, Reverend McCook. Starting with you, sir, how do you bridge that gap? Or do you even see it as a gap?
Well, I think that anything that you do in Jamaica, where we have a population of millions, and you attempt to engage persons, you'll always have a gap because there are very few things that are able to impact every single individual. So if we start on that premise, our aim would be to narrow that gap. And so we recognize that it is possible to have this gap. It is not desirable to have this gap. And so there are efforts to bridge the gap. But at the same time, we have to recognize that there are different baskets, if you want to call it that, in the society that address different needs. So that I don't go to the bank to get a COVID test. I don't go to the court to draw money. So society is organized in a way that allows different entities and activities to address the needs that society has. And so what a breakfast attempts to do is to address a need that our national leaders have. The need to have fellowship with their colleagues, the need to hear reflection from the Word of God, the need to be prayed for and to be prayed with. And we believe that this benefits every Jamaican because, as Reverend Ambersley says, the values that are expressed in the scriptures and were expressed at the breakfast are values which, if embraced by our leaders and all Jamaicans, will improve the quality of life for each and every Jamaican. So we start with an understanding that we will not be able to be all things to all men or close all the gaps that exist, but we recognize that we have a responsibility to all Jamaicans, including to our national leaders, and we are established to provide a setting where our national leaders, who are not necessarily based on a class distinction. We are not saying that we are an upper class event or an event for the rich. We are saying that those who are engaged in leadership at the national level are the primary audience we address.
Reverend Dr. Ambersley, your thoughts, because especially in the context of the scripture that you use for your sermon, how do you bridge that gap and do it in a way that shows the population that they are loved by their leaders, in particular the church leaders? Reverend Dr. Ambersley?
Yes, I think an interesting question, and I stand on the foundation Chairman McCook has established. But I add this: I think we must see the breakfast for what it is. That really and truly it becomes a stimulus for something much deeper and greater. So we have the prayer breakfast, no different from an important meeting with leaders. What happens and what is important is having prayed, having reflected, both the leaders of the church, the leaders of business, the leaders of government must use that inspiration to go forth and make a difference. I think we must see the value in the breakfast, and I certainly left with that even greater sense of its value, having spoken at the breakfast, and I've attended the breakfast before. But I think it's a tremendous opportunity for a leader to pause, to hear a word that inspires and to receive prayer and to now rise and go forth to make a difference. And I think if we do that, the perceived gap would be less. Because again, if you call a management meeting and the leaders of a company or any meeting for that matter, and you come in, receive the instruction and go forth and make the difference, I think that's where the value is. I think if we see the breakfast as an inspirational huddle for leaders, and then the leaders rise from that breakfast and go and demonstrate the difference that the breakfast makes, that's where the power lies. And I believe that if we apply the values that were emphasized in the breakfast, and if we take seriously the principles that were outlined and go with the power of God, that the difference from the breakfast will be made tremendously. I like to say, prayer is the key, but we must turn the key, and we must be willing as drivers to use the key to make a difference. So that's my sense. If all the leaders who come and receive will embrace and go forth, then that will be tremendous. I also feel that as the message goes forth through the media and the content of the breakfast is shown, that if the population embrace the principles too, that can make a difference, because I believe that there is value in it for all of us. But of course, a physical event could not host everybody. So I think that must be recognized. But I think the gap need not exist, and it should be seen for what it is, a source of inspiration for leaders who will then go forth and make the difference that it can.
It is good to say that there need not be a gap, but almost every time I hear, let me call the person a quote unquote man or woman on the street, mention anything about the prayer breakfast, it's not positive. And I don't think they think it's not positive because they don't see the need for it. They're just not relating to it. So, Mr. Chair, if there is something further that you can do to make it connect with the people, please consider doing so, because I hardly ever hear.
All right, but no. Sorry, Stokely. May I challenge the premise of your recommendation?
To do so, but I wasn't finished making the point.
No, but if you, I mean, you're anecdotally concluding and then asserting it almost as a fact.
And you have evidence that it is not a fact.
I would suggest that the evidence I have would be on par with yours, which would suggest that whereas there are persons who you consider the man in the street who have those questions, there are also persons who will be considered man in the street who do not have those perceptions. The conclusion I would draw from that is that there is a need to improve, but to dismiss it as something that the man in the street regards as irrelevant, I think may be a bit of a stretch.
Well, I thank you for what you just said, because I've never heard anyone say anything positive to me about the breakfast in the street. But if you have heard otherwise, I thank you.
I wouldn't challenge you, because that is your reality and it's a reflection of the persons that you associate.
No, there wouldn't be anything to challenge. I'm telling you what I have heard. You are telling me what you have heard. There's nothing to challenge.
No. So I'm just balancing. I'm just balancing what you have heard with what I have heard, so that we can come up with.
Balancing is a better word than challenging. I'm not going to.
Yes. Well, I withdraw respectfully. So having said that, we recognize that something of this nature, by definition, could be perceived as elitist. And therefore, the average person would see it as, some big shots gathering at the Pegasus to eat breakfast that they will never be able to access. They may not even be able to have mint tea in the morning. Now, having accepted that that is a perception, we have to ask ourselves, what is our mission? And the mission, as both of us have shared, is to help our leaders who also need help, but also to seek to communicate. So our making ourselves available to be on your program and to respond to your questions is part of our engagement with the wider society. This year, for example, we have expanded the reach of the breakfast using YouTube and Facebook pages for churches, trying to provide more feeds so that the university, for example, could carry it on its station. Your station carried it. We believe that the message of the breakfast is not an elitist message. The speaker this year, and Rohan will share his own story, and he just gave a glimpse into it. This is not an elitist gathering. This is a gathering of persons who are committed to Jamaica. The persons who organize the breakfast are persons who I am from the country. I don't come from any special position in society. What we're saying is that what unites us is this understanding that we can become better and we can help each other to become better, and that we want to impact the lives of every Jamaican. And so out of the breakfast, each year we raise a contribution that goes to many deserving entities. And I hope that after this breakfast, after this, you may do a little research to see the man in the street, as you would call them, who have been positively impacted by it. The truth is that, as I said, with a population as large as we have, it will be difficult for each person to feel the impact of it. But that will not deter us from pursuing what we do, because we believe it is a righteous cause. And we will take the comments and criticisms on board, as we do each year, to try to make it better. And so our objectives really revolve around two drivers. One is to increase the relevance of the breakfast, and two, to increase the sustainability of the breakfast. And it is in recognition of some of the issues that you have raised and others that you have not raised, which we are aware of.
We have to leave it there this morning. We are totally out of time. I want to thank Reverend Dr. Ambersley and Reverend McCook for being with us. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. And visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. Listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app and download it today and stay connected with the family station, Love 101 FM, the number 4 station in the island and the number 1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Have a blessed weekend. Join Reverend Dr. Dallin Tussauds next week when he'll continue to set the stage for the discussion of topical and controversial issues. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. And I'm Stokely Marsh, and back to Love in the Morning with Ravani Blair.
801, folks. Thank you on the fabulous station, Love 101. Welcome now